I'm Catrina Skepper, and you might remember me from the Cadbury's Flake ad. Only the crumbly I'd like to take you on a trip down memory lane with my Celebrity Chat series sponsored by Pet Protect. I'll be visiting much-loved stars and their pets in their homes and catching up with what they've been up to. Janet, thank you so much for inviting me in on this rather miserable, drizzly day.
Right, for dog walking then.
Yeah, it's interesting because you, who've been very famous in so many generations, you have been very famous, not only your face but your voice. And I wondered how you managed to balance life with pets, children.
Oh, I think I was really lucky, actually, in inverted commas, that we had such fun, especially on Blue Peter. I was great friends with everyone I presented with, which I think is really lucky. But I look back on it now and think I'm really glad that I had that lovely job with those lovely people, and we did manage to keep a bit of distance. And I think over the years, because my career has been, you might say, varied, I'd like to say there was a path, but there obviously isn't.
You mentioned just now that there's that distance. Do you look at, and you have a famous daughter, do you look at people now who are on television and think, gosh, I'm glad I'm not in this particular era?
Yeah, although having said that, I mean, Sophie is really famous, you know, because her fame is like international. But she handles it really well. I mean, not only is she very distinctive looking, but she's also very tall. So there's no way she can kind of dress down and get away with it. You know, she stands out. But you can see people recognising her, and then, you know, she just sort of acknowledges, or they say, love the record, or whatever it happens to be, and then everybody moves on. So I'm really impressed by that. Like I say, I think it was easier for us, because although the programme itself was incredibly popular and famous, the presenters were only a factor in that, as Biddy Baxter was very keen to point out.
Just to get that right. But you were used to dealing with children, with pets. Mm-hmm. So when you have a dog, Nancy is a very special type of dog. Tell us a bit about her breed.
She's an Italian Spinoni, and I have to say I'd never heard of them before I owned one. The minute she came into our lives, it was obviously the right thing to do, and I cannot imagine not having a dog now. I mean, to such an extent that I'm sort of thinking, under the table, she doesn't need to know this. In a year or so, I'll probably get another dog. So there's a kind of crossover with now. And there is that thing. I know people more eloquent than me have waxed lyrical about how a dog loves you in a very distinctive way and the way you feel about it. But it's absolutely true, isn't it? I mean, it's just an extraordinary part of your life. And all the things that people have said before about, oh, you know, it'll be a tie and you'll never get out and, you know, you'll have to walk, reminded me a bit before I had kids, before people would say, oh my God, you know, your life's never going to be the same. You think, well, that's kind of what I want. You know, the bit that I really like is taking her on long walks, whatever the weather, which would have surprised my 20-year-old self as well. I couldn't have predicted that.
Do you give Nancy a nice sort of olive oil rich diet to go with her Italian origins?
That would be good, wouldn't it? No, she gets the dry stuff. She gets the dry stuff, occasionally supplemented by illegal cat food stealing.
Because you've got 2 cats as well, which you should mention.
She lives to get their food, actually. It's a sort of silent battle. Yeah.
Well, what about insurance and pets in your life? Does that...
Vital, absolutely vital. I mean, I've had cats forever, and they're usually the sort that have found me rather than me actually going out to find them. But when we decided to get a dog, somebody said to me, oh, you need insurance. I said, are you sure? You know, the dog's expensive. We decided to get a pedigree, and we know we have to look after her. But of course you are not only liable for every little injury they ever have, but if they do harm to somebody else. And even if it's not a precious person, you know, someone's white coat, I would rather pay out on insurance every single time. It's a real investment to me. And I think so much so that it's one of those things that you should have to do when you get an animal. I don't know why it's an option, really, because it's paid for itself with Nancy, you know.
That quality of life, really, that you know, and it's a kind of... It's insurance for the pet, but it's actually knowing that you can give them the best quality of life.
Totally, totally.
Has anybody ever approached you in the park with a kind of strange question?
What is that? What is that? I hope they're dog related. It's mostly a sort of fascination with her, really, because they are quite a distinctive breed. And I have to confess that once a year only, John and I go on a walk with the Spinoni Club of Great Britain. He'll kill me for... Obviously, I'm proud of the dog, and it's a great club and everything. But we go on this once-a-year walk, and it's usually in Norfolk, along Holcombe Beach last year. And there is nothing funnier to me than seeing 150 Spinonis altogether. Because you might think your dog's distinctive, and then you realise they all look like that, they all act like that, they all have exactly the same physical characteristics. So yeah, that's our dog owning shame.
I have to ask you now, because it's that time of year, Christmas, doggy Christmas. What happens in the Janet household?
Well, Nancy gets a ludicrous present from my father. And I'm going to offend health and safety here, because he, a couple of Christmases ago, bought her a toy from a market abroad, and I don't think it had passed rigorous standards. It no longer has any innards. It's been totally eviscerated, but it's a little toy kitten, Floppy, and she loves it. 2 bits. But it certainly didn't come with anything saying intended for your pet.
Janet, thank you very, very much for letting us come and meet you. And Nancy, she's quite happy, thank you very much.
Yeah, whatever she is.